9 times the term law is found in the Gospel of Luke, 5 of which we will find in the passage that we are about to read.
Il termine legge che noi abbiamo in italiano è la resa della traduzione del termine greco.
The term law comes from the Greek nomos, but nomos does not give justice to the Hebrew term, which can be found also in the Old Testament as Torah.
Torah infatti non è legge come intendiamo noi.
Torah is not in fact the law as we understand it. Torah more precisely means teaching, instruction, indications that are given, which are all typical terms of pedagogy.
Ecco perché Israele si sente privilegiato come popolo.
That is why Israel as a people feels the privilege of having received the law directly from God. The law that, according to the Bible, gives the people of Israel the possibility of living fully, prosperity, blessing, and in peace, in the relationship among men, but especially in the relationship with the Creator, with God.
Ma leggiamo direttamente quindi dal Vangelo di Luca al capitolo 2, versetti prima 22, 24 e poi 39.
We can read directly from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verses 22 to 24, and then verses 39 to 40. When the days were completed for their purification, according to the law of Moses, they took him up to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord, just as it is written in the law of the Lord. Every male that opens the womb shall be consecrated to the Lord, and to offer the sacrifice of a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, in accordance with the dictate of the law of the Lord. Verse 39. When they had fulfilled all the prescriptions of the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee, to their own town of Nazareth. The child grew and became strong, filled with wisdom, and the favor of God was upon him. So 5 times we heard the term law, in terms of instruction, applied to this family, the family from Nazareth, Joseph, Mary, and the baby Jesus, who followed the law of Moses. And according to the law, particularly for Mary, they went to Jerusalem, because 40 days after having given birth, the woman had to wait to perform the purification that had no moral connotation. After 40 days, they went to the temple and offered, according to the book of Leviticus, a lamb. If they didn't have the economic resources to offer a lamb, they could offer a pair of doves, which is in fact exactly what the family from Nazareth did. The Gospel tells us that they also presented the baby Jesus and offered him to the Lord. In fact, the law required the payment of a ransom for the firstborn male of 5 shekels, and not an offering. Luke doesn't mention this in the case of John the Baptist. So what can we learn from this holy family from Nazareth? It was a family who lived by their own work. We know this from the Gospels, that Joseph was a carpenter, and he lived from the work of his own hands. They were not rich and did not have great economic resources. They lived depending on the Lord. We know from the Gospel that being rich in itself is not a bad thing, but because man's heart easily bonds itself, riches may become mammon, when we put our trust in material goods and we don't depend on the Lord. So the family from Nazareth lived from honest work, from the work of Joseph's hands, and depended on the Lord. This is a model for us also. The second point is about the Son. The Son was presented to God. Literally it means that he was put at the Lord's disposal. This is important for our families also, because our children don't belong to us. They don't belong to their parents. Our children belong to the Lord. We all belong to the Lord. The Lord ransomed us, and it's important that every person, children included, live the Lord's project in their lives. So from the outset, it's an interior instance of freedom that we must have, to offer our children to the Lord, and not try to pilot our children's lives, but especially to follow their lives, accompany them with prayer, and the offering from the depths of our heart to the Lord. This is also important for our relationship with our children. And then the color which is given to this icon is their faithfulness to the law. The law of the Lord lived in freedom gives joy, because ultimately it's the law of love, which helps us to grow and live in the Beatitudes and in prosperity, that the Lord wants for us. A truly free person follows the law of the Lord. It may seem paradoxical, but it's the fruit of freedom, a decision that comes from freedom. It's for us too, if we put these simple but fundamental concepts into practice, so we can live in the Beatitudes of peace and joy that the Lord wants for all of our families. So faithfulness to the law and a poverty that does not mean not to have, but rather of sharing, and so depends on the Lord, and to leave our children free, and from they are very small to put them at the Lord's disposal, so that the Lord's will may be done in their lives. This is my prayer. Until the next time from the Sea of Galilee.